I really love these clamshell chairs. The front captain's chair and passenger side chair. I think the design is just so cool. The more that I stare at them, the more I like them. It's a shame that I'm getting rid of them out of the motorhome. Now, I'm not getting rid of them. They're not going to the dumpster or anything like that. If you really want a pair of them because you're renovating one of these, let me know. But I've got plans for them. And yeah, I'm going to be replacing them with a shoulder belt. Like I've got chairs. I spent $1,000 on 2 chairs that have a shoulder belt. So we all know how much safer shoulder belts are than just lap belts. So I think it's a good thing to do, to, you know, a nice little, nice to have to keep my family safe. Anyway, in the last episode, I got the steering box right there. I got that thing working well, and the steering's nice and tight, and driving around the neighborhood, everything seems great. So I'm feeling pretty confident in the ability of the motorhome to get down the road, which means that it's now ready to drive to Beaverton to get painted. Now, I found that guy who paints fire engines for a living, so he's got a big shop, big enough to paint a motorhome. So I was really happy to find him. So that's not set in stone though yet. I think I'm getting it painted there. Might still end up painting it myself. Random things, stranger things have happened. Yeah, so in order to drive it to Beaverton legally, I need to get it licensed. That license plate on the back there has been on the motorhome since I don't know when. The tags are expired. It's not my license plate, and so it's basically illegal. And I need to get it re-registered, which means I need to get it smogged, or INM, or DEQ, whatever you call it. And so yeah, I hope it passes. It's running quite well. I think it'll pass, but let's take it to the shop and see how it does. Looking through my dirty windshield at the DEQ here. I'm waiting in line, waiting to get tested. So yeah, in 3 years, the motorhome will be exempt from DEQ testing here in the state of Oregon. But I'm not going to wait 3 years to get tested. So let's hope it passes and I can get it licensed. And, you know, as soon as it's licensed, I can drive it to the painters and then finish the inside and then go camping in it legally without having to get some sort of like trip permit or something like that. Anyway, wish me luck. Back on the road, and we passed emissions. Got the motorhome to the DMV here in Southeast Portland for the Vin inspection. Now, normally you can do a Vin inspection at the DEQ when you're getting the smog inspection done, but because the motorhome is 12,000 GVW, it's over the 8,500 GVW limit, and they have to do the VIN inspection there at the DMV. And the North DMV in North Portland is not available for VIN inspection, so I had to come down here. And since I was down here anyway, I thought I would go to Harbor Freight. I went looking on Craigslist and I could not find a used version of a rolling tool cabinet, and that's what I need because it's just so cluttered in my garage with all the tools that I'm acquiring for the GMC from my dad and the ones that I already had. So I gotta get some organization going. So here I am to go buy some more stuff reluctantly, but let's get it done. I always forget to grab the mask out of the vehicle. There's my mask sitting on the dashboard. Not a bad price. It's big enough to hold all of my tools, including my bike tools, so that's cool. And it's got a workspace on top. Unfortunately, I have to wait a month for it to come from China. It's almost like ordering it online. You just have to wait for it to come to get shipped. And then I have to come to the store and pick it up too, but that's cheaper than paying shipping. I did end up picking up this welding cart today, so I get to take that home with me. That only cost $35, and we'll talk about that later on. But in the meantime, it's 5:30 on a Friday. Traffic back to Vancouver over the bridge. It's going to be a nightmare. Really slow, but I don't mind driving slow. It's the changing lanes part that's really hard with a big vehicle. Just creeping along in rush hour traffic. The weirdest thing about it is, as I was saying to you guys in an earlier episode, the driver's seat is very far here to the left side of the vehicle, so you're used to having your head more around this position in the lane, and you don't realize that your spatial awareness, just how used you are to sitting there relative, to the lane. So I'm over here, and I kind of need to line up my head with the corner of that semi right there. That's about where my head goes, and it feels strange. It feels like I'm crossing that line. See, it's a really wide bus. You can see the dotted line there, the distance, and then you can see the dotted line over there. So I'm centered with my head all the way here to the left. Remember when I said that I wouldn't hesitate to drive this vehicle across the country? Well, maybe I spoke too soon. So I just had to put on the brakes pretty hard coming down off the off-ramp here. And we're going to take a listen when I have to accelerate. I'm going to take a listen to the right front. Hear that? I've also got some kind of a sheet metal rattle happening. I have no idea where that's coming from. It's really bizarre. And here I am back at home. There's the kiddo waiting for me to pull in. And the source of that sheet metal rattle was the door on the plinth underneath the passenger seat here. All right, I'm seeing a lot of dry rot here on the bushings underneath, so it looks like all of the rubber needs to be replaced. And here is the A-arm bushing you can see, and I think that that's where the clunking noise is coming from. I think this whole A-arm is sliding back and forth depending on whether or not it's under braking conditions or driving conditions. When you're braking on it, it gets forced one direction, and when you're driving, it gets forced the other direction. We're here at the front passenger side of the vehicle, and you can see the jack there in the center of the motorhome. That's very important. You never jack these up from one side or the other. Apparently it will break the windshield because it'll twist the coach. Anyway, you see that this wheel is up off the ground, and that's allowing me to push and pull pretty hard on this. And I've got just ever so slight amount of clunk, 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 clunk. Like it's very subtle if it's there. So those wheel bearings are not shot. They're fine. That's not where the clunking noise is coming from. I really do think it's from the dry rotted bushings to the A-arms back in there. So it's not tragic. Those bushings are still doing a job. They're just a little play, but it's not like the motorhome's gonna crash or the wheels are not gonna fall off or anything like that. So this is a task that I can put off until a later date. For anybody else who needs to register their vehicle, the first VIN number is easy to find here in the front left of the engine compartment, but the second VIN is a lot harder to find. It's here on the driver's side, up underneath, right here at the yoke for the what is that, the emergency brake. You guys see those numbers there in my thumb? They're upside down. Yeah, that's the second VIN number location. Back to this welding cart that I bought at Harbor Freight. That is to hold my prime weld TIG welder here. Now it's been, geez, like 12 years since I did any TIG welding, but according to all the reviews, this is a heck of a good product. It's got some made in America components on it. Namely the torch itself. So the actual handheld torch is made up in Seattle from what I understand, which is really cool. And it runs on either 110 or 220 here in the United States. So that's awesome. But the only 220 plug that I have in my house access to, so my garage doesn't have a 220 plug in it, but the dryer does. And the dryer is just on the other side of the door in there. See, there's the door to the dryer, to the laundry room. So this will plug into the dryer plug, the 220 there, and this will receive the TIG welder here, has the plug that plugs into that. And then this cable is like 8 feet long, and it should be able to do it. So I can do some 220 TIG welding. So let's get this machine unboxed, installed onto that cart, and get that extension cord assembled. I forgot to show you guys, I've also got this mini canister of argon gas. Welcome to my very cluttered garage. You can see the table saw on the top right being repurposed as a workbench to hold all of the random bits and pieces that I need to access as I work on the motorhome. And you can see my tools, the mechanics tools spread out all over the floor. I really need to get that cart or that the tool cabinet, the rolling tool cabinet, as soon as possible so that I can. The garage is not acceptable to me in this condition, so I need to be a lot more organized. Now, what I'm doing here is just assembling the cart by hand, getting those bolts hand tight as I can get them with my fingers. And when I bought this cart, I didn't know if it was going to fit the PrimeWeld TIG 225 machine, but it fits perfectly, like a glove. So yeah, that machine there is, according to all the experts, the guys with the really good welders with the YouTube channels and all that, it's a fantastic machine. So when I learned how to TIG 15 years ago, the TIG welders cost like $7,000. So it's just incredible that I can get a machine for under $1,000 today. And I will never be speaking about any subjects that even start to resemble politics like I did previously. That really hurt this channel. But Made in China, of course. That's enough said there. Anyway, after I got the machine mounted on the cart, the next step was to get the adapter cable / extension cable for 220 wired up. So here's what I ended up with on that extension / adapter cable. This end here is where the welder plugs into it, and it has a wide slot and a narrow slot, and that is for purposes other than the way that we're using it. So these are both actually going to be 120 volts, each of those legs. So combined, they equal 240 volts. And this is the neutral cable. And so that's going to plug in just like so. And then the neutral cable is the only one that's important that you get the same. So that center cable goes to this center one right here. And again, these are 2 live leads. So this plugs in behind my dryer into the wall. And I have the older 3-prong style dryer plug back there. But if you have a 4-prong style one, I don't know, you'll have to look it up. It'll wire a little bit differently than this. But for me, it was pretty easy. Just make sure that this center here goes to that one. And other than that, these can be cross-wired or, as long as I didn't go 2 to 1 or something crazy like that. All right, it's plugged in back there, which means that it just barely reaches into the garage. Now I can plug in the welder. And that thing is not quiet. Now I can weld, and the good news is with the length of cabling on the TIG torch here, this will reach quite the distance across the garage. Almost, well yeah, actually right here to the doorway. So I can weld pretty much anywhere inside the garage, but I can't reach the motorhome. And for obvious reasons, that's a problem. So here's that CK International torch. So that's what you hold in the left hand, or I guess if you're left-handed, you're holding your right hand. But yeah, you just sort of get the spark to happen here, and then you feed the filler rod in with that hand. Anyway, this part here, flexible, kind of cool, up to 40 degrees each way. That's made in Seattle. So not 100% made in China. I am actually supporting some made in America buying this, and it does appear to be this TIG, what is this, PrimeWeld TIG 220. Man, the reviews look great on it. The price is fantastic. So if you're in the market for a TIG machine, I was pretty happy to find this. Now I've got to sharpen my tungsten, and everybody knows that you sharpen lengthwise. You never sharpen grinding across the face. You always sharpen like along the rod. So I don't have a special bench grinder. You got to get a special wheel to really accomplish this correctly. But in a pinch, a diamond abrasive wheel on a Dremel tool will work just fine. So that's what I'm going to do. You like my welding table setup? There's my foot pedal, there's a bucket, I got this big thick plate of steel, there's the chunk of aluminum that I'm playing with, and yeah, let's give this a try. Well, that was fun. Maybe I should add some filler rod now. Whoops. I apologize for the wind noises. I wanted to give you guys a different view of a motorhome as we, what's the word I'm looking for? Debrief everything that happened in this episode. So yeah, what happened? I bought a welder, right? And why would I do that? Why would I buy a welder? Well, there's a lot of things that I want to weld to the outside of the motorhome. Solar panels, for instance, up there on the roof. And all this, all the way up and over, basically from the belly band up and over to the other belly band, that's all aluminum. So there's a lot of welding that I could do to it, and it's kind of like an art project. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to accomplish yet. So having somebody else do the work, it would cost me a lot of money because I'd have them do it, and then I'd have them undo it and redo it, and it's a poor strategy. So I think welding myself is the way to accomplish this, because as I'm doing the work that I want to do will reveal itself. So yeah, clearly my skills at TIG welding are piss poor at the moment. At one point in time, I was a little bit more skilled than I am now. I think a major part of my problem that you just saw is that little welding table. I'm like chicken winging it, so I'm kind of floating in the air as I'm trying to weld. I need to get where I can brace my arms on a desk or whatever. So yeah, I've got some practice to do until my aluminum TIG welding is up to snuff and I can make watertight welds for the motorhome. But that's the goal. So yeah, what else? The A-arms and those dry rot bushings, I am not above having somebody else do work for me. So I think it's likely that I will take this in and have some professional mechanic shop take those apart and replace those bushings. I could do it here in my driveway. Really not ideal. I'd need to get more jack stands because the ones that I have are for like a lightweight car, and my driveway is pretty severely sloped. You can kind of see the slope there, so it's just really not ideal to do the work here. And it's 20 hours according to Jim Bounds. I talked to him. Now I gotta say a big thank you to Jim Bounds. He has a wealth of information about these motorhomes. He's been working on them for years. He knows maybe everything there is to know about them. Now a lot of guys kind of want to take his expert knowledge and then disagree with it, but I guess I'm not too much different in that I'm doing my own project, but I swear without him, without Jim, I would be making so many mistakes. So basically he gives me a roadmap, tells me all of the issues, tells me his best fixes, which I basically am following his advice for those best fixes. And yeah, so I'm not taking credit for a lot of these. A lot of these things are Jim Bounds information. So big thank you to Jim, and I give him $5 a month over there on Patreon. So if you're gonna make one of these motorhomes happen, you should probably become a Patreon supporter of his as well, and call him up and ask for help as well, because it's an awesome resource. So yeah, so the 20 hours of work, don't want to do that. Probably gonna have somebody else do all the bushings at the whole front end, and while we're doing the front end, might do the back end suspension as well. We'll see. And finally, there's the registration. So yeah, I took this thing in at the DMV. The guy was giving me all kinds of great attention. He was asking me questions about it and everything. Got the paperwork, and because of COVID-19, apparently it's going to be like 3 months, 4 months until I receive that plate in the mail. So that is quite a while. And for anybody who's curious why, I told you guys that I live in Vancouver, Washington, and why I'm getting Oregon plates is because we currently rent here and we're not going to be here all that much longer. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll be here 2 more years, but we're definitely relocating to Oregon. And those plates that I'm getting are lifetime plates. They don't need to be, you don't need to get new tags for them. They're a special plate for show cars. So once I get them registered once, I'll never have to register it again, and that's why I'm doing the Oregon registration. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you guys have missed any of my old episodes, I've pretty much walked you guys through everything that I've done to the motorhome so far, and there is the playlist of all those episodes from beginning to end. So go ahead and check that out. And if you want to help me out, because goodness knows I'm going to be spending a lot of money on this motorhome, there's the link to do that. So thanks for watching. See you next time.